I want to welcome all of you. I'm Gary Green. I'm the president here at Forsyth Tech Community College. I want to welcome all of you, particularly want to welcome and thank our students for being here. Before we start, I know there's some folks in the back. Can we kind of move forward? We don't have a large live audience. We are streaming this, so we have a much larger audience than here in the room. But I would welcome you all to move down to this front section of the room, please. I want to thank everyone who's here, and particularly our guests. This is like about the 45th session of SciTech that we have had. This has been a long-standing now tradition of the college to bring together thought leaders around biosciences and about core sciences and the ways in which they are impacting our community and impacting our economy. And we're really pleased to have one of our outstanding partners with us today that's been a longtime supporter of Forsyth Tech and a partner in helping to provide jobs in our community. So we're really pleased to have our guest presenters today. These are important to us. It's important for us to connect with our community and to connect around the sciences and technologies that are important to us as an institution. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Russ. Yes, are you going to introduce our presenter? Then Russ Reed, who is the Executive Director of the National Center for the Biotechnology Workforce. Russ?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. A lot of people probably wanted to come to this lecture, but saw that it was a beautiful October day. So I congratulate the people that have come here, and there may be some at home that are streaming this and enjoying it. I do want to let you know, too, that we have a large consortium of biotech people that work together right across the country, and we've let our people in California know that this is being streamed because Carolina Liquid Chemistries, who's presenting today, actually has a facility in California. And so we wanted them to be able to have an opportunity to see what Carolina Liquid Chemistries is all about. So it's my pleasure to introduce Patti Shugart. And Patti is no stranger to the National Center for the Biotechnology Workforce. She's been absolutely fantastic supporter of the efforts that we do in terms of looking at best practices in biotech workforce training along the years. And she's been a great friend to Forsyth Tech, as Dr. Green has said, but especially a good friend to the National Center. So Patti is actually the Chief Operating Officer of Carolina Liquid Chemistries, and she's the president of a company called Gmp from Brea, California. And she graduated with a degree in biology and medtech. She became a certified medical technologist, and then she eventually went into sales, and she became the director of sales of multiple companies, and then eventually ended up, during her MBA, starting this company called Gmp, which was a regulated contract bulk chemistry reagent test manufacturer. And she still is the president of Gmp to this very day, and the chief operating officer of Carolina Liquid Chemistries. She has an MBA, but what she does have, which I think is really important, she's a smart lady who has had a lot of experience dealing with large corporations and small corporations. And one of the things that she does very, very well and very nicely, which is really important in this community, is she gives a lot back to the community through the Winston Chamber, and in particular in the technology section of the Winston-Salem Chamber of Commerce. But she says in her bio, as you might have read it, that one of her favorite things is being mom to her 10-year-old son, Ryan. And we have two other special guests today, but Patti's going to introduce them to you. So Patti, the floor is yours. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you. So do you I need to, thank you for having me. Okay. I don't know if I want to turn, oh, I'm on. Okay, good. Thanks for having me here and our team from Carolina Liquid Chemistries, some former Forsyth Tech graduates, which is great. And I guess I'm going to start off with a question because I kind of want to engage everybody here. Who knows what Carolina Liquid Chemistries what we actually do? Okay, so I'm going to pick on the lady in the back row.
Carolina Liquid Chemistries manufactures their reagents and equipment to do blood draw, or say you take your urine sample at your doctor's office, they manufacture the reagents and the equipment required to determine analysis.
That's right. And I just want, that's Allison, and Allison is actually one of our employees, so she's my plant. So with that, she just started with us, so I'm going to give her a t-shirt. So she needs it. So many of you, everybody goes to the doctor and we get a blood test done, and you're like, well, where does the blood go? And it goes to a laboratory, and what happens to it, your blood gets put on an analyzer, and it's mixed with chemicals, and a reaction's created. And Carolina Liquid Chemistries, we're the company that actually makes the test. We're not LabCorp or a Quest. They actually perform the tests, or maybe your own physician office your own physician might have a clinical laboratory in their practice. We don't run tests, we actually create the test. One of our claim to fame is our cholesterol test. So a lot of cholesterol tests out there on the market might be a Carolina Chemistry cholesterol test. Okay. So I wanted to share a little bit about Carolina Liquid Chemistries, because I know that many of you know our name, the name of our company, you know us, but maybe you don't know exactly what we do, because what we do is not necessarily all that sexy. So, but what we do is we were founded in 1994, we're privately held, and we're veteran owned. And we are an ISO certified company, and we're 2003, but any of you people in regulatory affairs probably know that it's 2016 that we're going to be moving to. Are many of you familiar with the Gmp requirements? Okay, good manufacturing practices. Well, we are highly, highly regulated, and so we follow good manufacturing practices. We are registered with the FDA, and we founded ourselves on being the low-cost provider of high-quality reagents in a clinical laboratory. Years ago, my husband Phil, he worked for a company called Beckman Coulter, and they put out a lot of instruments, and these instruments had reagents on them, and they were pretty much owned the market. And the market had a need for a lower cost reagent, and he was able to patent a cartridge that mimicked their cartridge, and he was able to go to market with a 50% reduction in cost on the reagents. And so that's how he started Carolina Liquid Chemistries. So we've had a successful run at it with 1,800 clinical laboratories throughout the history of our company that have used our product worldwide. And we are a worldwide company, as Micah knows, because she's working on CE marking. Recently, since 2008, so we were out there in the market and we sold all these chemicals to be used on other manufacturers' analyzers. And we got beat up a little bit, and they'd say, well, we can't use your product because the manufacturer will stop servicing our instrument, or we can't use your product for a variety of reasons. So we said, you know what, we need to get our own chemistry analyzer to put our chemicals on. So in 2008, when we moved here to Winston-Salem, we came up with we had a partnership with a company in Japan, and we came out with the Biolis 24i. So that was our first stab at the instrument market. And then in 2014, we got FDA clearance on a whole new family of chemistry analyzers. Our competitors' analyzers are designed in 1994. And so what's interesting about these is that the fluidics, and as David Purser, who will be speaking in a few minutes, the fluidics and the electronics are far superior. I mean, you wouldn't buy a TV phone, things like that from 1994. So you can only imagine the maintenance on these instruments are a lot easier, plug and play, versus having to take off something and having to fix the whole thing. So we have 3 new analyzers, and we're really, really proud of them, and they look so technologically advanced. Okay. So we have a complete line of our own analyzers now. We have affordable service contracts. One thing we have our own service group out there. We have a total of about 53 employees now. The majority are in service and support. And we have over 100 different reagents or tests that we sell. So if you can name a test, we probably sell it. We are a repackager and a relabeler. What that means is that someone else might sell us the reagents and we repackage them as under our name and our label. We have over, just recently, I was just looking today actually, we have over 200, almost 300 FDA CLIA categorizations or clearances pairings on the CLIA categorization website. And we have a comprehensive menu of general chemistries. So we have factory-trained service engineers, our own engineers. We don't third-party source, and that's a big, big deal to clinical laboratories because when they call, and if it's a third party, you know, sometimes they can blame the manufacturer for the reagents, but if it's us, you know, we're going to fix it. Let's see. We do what is really cool. We have remote access troubleshooting, where we can, our tech reps can log into and do remote access fixing, you know, over the phone, which is great. It helps when you have customers in North Dakota and things like places like that, Russia. Installation and training, validation assistance, and obviously we have service contracts available. So this is our high throughput modular. It does 6,400 tests an hour. Just imagine the throughput that is. I mean, that just does so fast. And then there's a mid-size for a small hospital, and then for medium-sized hospital or physician office clinical lab, the CLC 1600. And these are what our kits look like. I don't know if anybody's familiar with what an HDL is or an LDL, cholesterol tests. A homocysteine, that's a stroke marker. And these are reagents for other platforms that we have. And we also have other analyzers as well. When we meet with our customers, we say, you know, their business is our business. If they don't succeed, if their lab doesn't succeed, we're not going to. And so we support them by training. We in the biotech place, Wake Forest Biotech place, we bring in new customers to train on their equipment. And we support them we have a well-trained service organization. And we have a gal who answers the phone, and she triages the calls. You're not calling and getting the prompts, which is, customers love that because they just need that somebody to talk to right away. They don't want to have to press a million buttons to get somebody when things aren't the way they want it to be. Let's see. And, you know, we also have a lot of industry experts, regulatory experts on board with us, and we have quality products. Okay, so that's a little bit about us. So I'm going to talk about the future, though. The future is so exciting. Since we have our new products and we have all the reagents, and we have decided to go into the veterinary market. And this is really exciting, and I'm going to show you a little bit of a snippet of what may be the future. This is our little rotor, our little disc, and this contains 14 different chemistry tests. And on a drop of blood from your dog or cat, it goes in here, it goes on the instrument, and within 12 minutes, we have the results. Okay. Now, there are other things like this on the market, in the veterinary market, but there are basically you know, two big players in it. But this just gives us an opportunity to go in there with something new. But then we also have our larger instruments that we can go out, you know, and capture some of that market and help some of these large vet labs with their testing with our newer pieces of equipment. We're launching a hematology analyzer in 2017, and we just submitted into the FDA TSH test, thyroid test on immunoassay. So we're working with that. And we are gearing up with the Veterans Affairs with the rule of two. I don't know if anybody has been following anything going on where the VAs, if two veterans are bidding on a product, a bid, that they need to choose one of the veterans. So this will help us a lot with the VA as well. So we've been around for 20 years. We're really busy. And with that, I wanted to introduce you to Micah, which I'm sure many of you already know. And she's going to actually tell you a little bit about her bio. I don't want to steal her thunder, but Micah is an extraordinary extraordinarily valuable employee to us, as well as David. Micah is my right-hand person in regulatory. Well, actually, I've got 2 right-hand people, and 2 or 3 of them, but they're all every day. I mean, we're working so hard to get products through the FDA. She's working with me right now on a few 510Ks, and I wanted her to share her experience at Forsyth Tech and how she got her job here at Carolina, and talk to you a little bit about what she does day to day. So, Micah, do you need the? Okay, good.
Hello, I'm Micah. I came a long way to get to where I am. And I guess my basic takeaway, although I'll get back to that, my basic takeaway for any of the students in the room looking for a job is basically you have got to make yourself known. You've got to make what people know about you really good. And you've also got to own whatever it is you do. If you're waiting for something to come around and tap you and say, hey, let's, would you please come here and make $1 billion a year? It's never going to happen. So you've got to own it, and then it'll come to you. So I am the Regulatory Affairs Manager at Carolina Liquid Chemistries. And that means, well, first of all, we are a very efficient company, and like Patty said, we have 53 employees. So everyone wears a lot of hats, and you've got to be very versatile, and you've also got to be pretty nimble so that you can move from thing to thing very quickly. So I do a lot of updating documents. You bought aspirins, you've bought all kinds of prescriptions from the doctor. They all have those big, long sheets of instructions in them that you can't read. You don't ever even bother trying because you'd need a microscope to read it. It's so small. I get to write those. Real exciting. The good part is I don't have to start from scratch. I generally just update because that would be too much work and we would never get anything else done. We also have safety data sheets. As you know, anybody that has lab experience, you know that it's an FDA regulation that any chemical used in a laboratory has to have information in case of a spill or somebody gets it on them or in their eye, what harm is going to be caused, how do you react to that situation, and that's all for every product that you sell required by the FDA. So I get to update those too. They're even longer in a lot of cases than the package inserts. Parameters. This is kind of the set of rules and not regulations, but rules and settings that you need to make sure you have on your instrument if you're going to run this particular assay on this particular instrument. And every instrument's different. So we have the tech people who come up with that data, and then I get to create the parameters. We also do risk assessments because everything you sell, you have to consider what harm might be caused by that item if any imaginable thing goes wrong from the point of when it's shipped in. Did you get good quality stuff? What are you going to do about it? Well, you have to put it in quarantine for a certain amount of time. You have to run tests on it. Whatever it is you have to do, every step of the way you have to consider if something went wrong, what harm might it cause? So we have to do risk assessments, and I get to do those too. I also get to, like Patty said, work on a lot of projects. We are going international, and the international world has its own set of rules and regulations. The world's getting smaller, and things are actually becoming more standardized and harmonized. So basically that means that if I put these certain symbols and this certain wording on my document, regardless of whether people speak German or French or what country they're in, they know that that symbol, whatever it says beside it, is what they're looking for, if that makes any sense. Maybe you'll have a thermometer and they know, oh, well, that's my temperature. They don't have to really get a translator to read the text. They can look at your symbols. So I'm doing that, and I just finished an interesting project today investigating the regulations on transporting hazardous materials to other countries, and one particular product that we have. So, I mean, I get to do a whole lot of different things, and some of it's really tedious, and some of it's kind of interesting and really fun. On a day-to-day basis, people call, they ask for documents, I provide them. Of course, it's my job to make sure I'm providing them with the most current one. It's not going to do any good to send them one from 90, because technology, formulations, everything's changed. So everything's got to be kept up to date. I maintain them online. We also do marketing, and we go to trade shows. I help organize and get those ready, keep an inventory of all the literature so we know when we need to order new stuff. Everybody wears a lot of hats, right? We do weekly activity reports. I consolidate them for the upper management. And another thing that is very important, and everybody has to do, is interact with your coworkers. And I mentioned that, and I'll get back to it later, but remember that. So my journey, well, how did you get to doing all this stuff? How does one get there? Well, like everybody, you've got your own story, and to you it doesn't sound all that interesting. Well, I started out as the child of an Air Force officer. So I traveled to Asia and the United States. Never went to Europe, but it gave me a chance to see things from a lot of different perspectives. I graduated from high school in my dad's hometown, back in Arkansas, a little bitty town. My first job as an adult, career type job, was a truck driver. I drove 18-wheelers all over the country. And I did that for quite a while. My husband's here, he still drives. Hi. But I went all over the country. Interestingly enough, one of our customers is in North Carolina. That's how we came to be in North Carolina. We got to pick any state we wanted to live in, and we picked this one. So, we got something going here. Then tragedy struck. I was injured and I had to change careers. Actually, I was told I wasn't going to live 5 more years. But I did. And I didn't want to be too terribly bored. So I heard about a grant that Forsyth Tech had won that actually started the National Center for the Biotechnology Workforce. And I went to my doctor and I said, hey, is this something I could do? I don't really know what it is, but is it something I could do? He said, yeah, probably. So I enrolled in the biotechnology program. I actually graduated in 2007. Now keep in mind, that was 20 some odd years after graduating from high school. Math skills, writing skills, all of that sort of stuff that you do on an academic level, was just practical level to me now. So I was really afraid I wasn't even going to have the smarts to get through the program. I worked like a dog. Somebody said, they told a story about when they were in a place and the speaker was trying to get them all roused up, and he says, how many people are ready to succeed? And of course, the whole audience went crazy. I am. He says, all right, how many people are ready to do the work required to succeed? And it's like, oh, well, I don't know. That's kind of questionable. But you really do. You have to do the work involved because it's not coming to you. You've got to go get it. I continued after I left here to Salem College, and I got a bachelor's degree in biology. And from there, I went to UNCG because Russ kept telling me, he says, if you want to move your career forward, you've got to get a graduate level degree. Well, I'm a grown-up. I have responsibilities. I can't just, not work and go to school. That would be fun, but somebody has to pay bills, and my husband's doing the best he can, but medical bills had kind of overtaken a lot of stuff, so we were in a fix. So I had to keep a job. I couldn't go after a hard science degree, so I went after a business degree. So I earned my MBA in 2015. All of this time from 2005, I believe it was, onward, I'd worked for Russ. And that was a really great experience, and it taught me a whole lot of stuff, and I got to network with a whole lot of people. I was active in student government when I was here. I was active in student government when I went to Salem College, and then not so much when I went to UNCG. I interacted with the faculty every time they needed to have something done. I was the man, Johnny on the spot. I was there. I was eager to do it, happy to do it, smile on my face, let me do more. I volunteered in the community, went places, helped out with everything I could. All of this is networking, and that's what I keep stressing, networking. People have got to know you. When somebody like Patti calls and says, hey, Russ, I need somebody to do X, Y, and Z. If Russ doesn't know you, he certainly cannot give her your name. Because I had worked with Russ, because I came to Russ because I had worked with somebody else. And they said, oh, yeah, I think she could do that for you. So Russ gave me a chance. That was networking. I came to Patti because I was working with Russ. And I overheard a conversation she was having, networking. And I said, hey, that sounds interesting. And the rest is history, as they say. So basically, that's what I want to leave you with, is to promote you. They have to know you. And what they know about you has to be good, or they're not going to promote you to ruin their own reputation. And besides that, you've got to look at it from the employer's perspective, from the world, not from your perspective, which for introverts, I guess, might be kind of hard. But I know in one of my classes, we had the instructor get up with, tattoos and weird hair and chains and all of this to pretend like she was going to come to a job interview. And it was really overkill to get the message across. But whatever you present, people are going to form an opinion of you, whether it's bad language, whether it's poor clothes, whether it's just a lazy attitude. They're going to see that, they're going to form an opinion, and you're going to stop yourself in your own tracks before you get started. So you've got to present the whole time, as best you can, that very best attitude, that best image. So basically, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. And I would like to turn it over to David. David Purser, it's all yours.
Very good story, Micah. Very good story. My name's David Purser, and I am an instrument specialist from Carolina Chemistries. I've been working now with Carolina Chemistries since about 2010. Am I used to the microphones? Been working with them for about since 2010, and my story, just like Micah's, is just one of those of networking and happened to be in the right time, right place, and it all kind of came together. So I'll talk a little bit about my background. Start the slideshow here. I was fascinated with electronics. I love to take things apart, love to understand how they worked. Computers, telephones. I used to take my remote control cars apart, just things that interest me to kind of have a feel for how they worked. So I knew from the start I wanted to go into something electrical, something electronics. And so I went into the field of electrical engineering, and after that I took a couple of courses, or before that I took a couple of courses with Central Piedmont Community College, and used that as a transition to go to UNC Charlotte. From UNC Charlotte I actually got my undergraduate and my graduate degree in electrical engineering, and worked at that for about 10 years. So during the time that I was at UNC Charlotte, I figured, okay, what kind of field do I want to go into? Now, I knew there were lots of different opportunities, but I didn't know exactly what it is I wanted to do. So I thought telecommunications might be something of interest. So I took some courses in that field. And then I went to work with a co-op with Bell South Telecommunications. And that worked for a little while for me, but then I realized that that was not exactly the field that interests me. So after that, I went to work with Square D in Charlotte and did some R&D. We worked with the transformer units, and we also worked with some of the dielectric materials that were used in those transformers. So I actually got a pretty good exposure to that, and that was actually what kind of led me to go into the semiconductor field, because I realized that electronics and research and development was actually the area that interests me. So just in a short stint of about 10 years, I worked in the semiconductor field. I worked with a company called Unaxis. They actually make the equipment that is used in that actually makes the various wafers and thin film devices. So whenever you're thinking of packaging your computer chips, you're thinking of telecommunications, your cell phone, all of those are actually made with pieces of equipment. And so that's what this company did. They made the etching equipment, the deposition equipment. They also handled the wafers, semiconductor wafers. That worked for a few years, and then I transitioned to a company called RF Micro Devices here in Greensboro. And from there, I actually did process engineering, and so I was deposition, etching of various thin film dielectric materials. And after that job went away, I decided to go into Amcor. Amcor is known as America Korea. They shorten it for Amcor. But they are a company that makes the solder bumps that are used on wafers. And then after that, the job went away from there. So I figured at that point I need to do something different. I've moved probably 8 times or more in the last 10 years, and I could see the semiconductor field was kind of drying up. So then, fortunately, I was introduced to a program at Forsyth Tech called biotechnology. And I talked with a number of individuals, including Judy Berry, who helped to steer me that way, and some other friends. And I figured that was definitely what I wanted to do, because it interests me. Initially, I was going to go into nursing. And I'm very happy that I decided to join Forsyth Tech and actually take some courses in that and get my degree, because that actually gave me a transition from my engineering. It could build that bridge, and I could actually understand things from an engineering perspective as well as the clinical or the chemistry side of things. So it was actually a great bridge for me. So what do I do with Carolina Chemistries? Well, as Micah said, you wear a lot of hats, and it's very true. When you have a company that has so many different needs, so many different opportunities, you find yourself more valuable if you actually explore different options from within. So I decided, okay, with my engineering background and also with the coursework that I had from Forsyth Tech, I figured I might be able to present a lot of different skill sets. And that's what I would like to stress here. When you're going into school, realize the courses can carry you only so far. But the biggest thing is to explore what it is that you can give to the company. What skill sets can you bring? And so I figured, okay, one of the things I can do is, since I understand engineering, I can work on equipment. So one of the things I do is instrument refurbishing, repair, and that occurs for several different platforms that we have here. One of them is an Olympus platform. We also have the Biolis, as Patty mentioned earlier. We have a CLC 720 and the newer platform, which is a 720i. And then we have our CLC family, which is the 800, the 1600, and the 6400 platforms. So I actually work with those platforms, anything from taking them apart to repairing them, to rebuilding them, replacing some of the components that are inside of that, and understanding what's going wrong with some of the equipment if there are issues out in the field. Some of the other things I do is instrument development. So if we have a clientele that needs some kind of support, perhaps they need training, I can provide training to those clientele. I can improve the equipment and feed that back to the company or to the company that manufactures the equipment. Technical documentation, working with Micah to help improve some of the parameters, even developing some of the parameters that are used for that particular equipment. Training of the coworkers as well as clientele that are out in the field. They may have issues with the instruments. They need some additional training. I provide that, so that's part of field support. Delivery of the equipment and installation. That is a very important factor, because we have to actually work with making sure that the instrument can make it into that facility. Not every piece of equipment will fit through a 36-inch door. So sometimes there's certain ways that we have to get it in, even through windows. It's kind of interesting how some of that works. But anyway, we do networking, of course, with coworkers. Anything that we learn internally, we share that amongst each other, so that way they can hopefully learn from our experiences and be able to provide that amongst themselves. And we followed current good manufacturing processes, and we do a robust quality system. So anyway, some of the other things that I do, project management. We've done 510K studies, which is for FDA release to the market. So I've done that on a number of platforms. In the warehouse, we have parts change management. We have to make sure that we have supplies on inventory. So if something breaks, we can get something to them quickly so that the equipment continues running. And shipment and receiving. So if parts need to go out to that clientele, we can certainly get that shipped out. And then I do data analysis. So whenever we finish studying something, when we finish running those particular tests on the instrument, we want to qualify it and make sure that the instrument is meeting standards that we've established, the manufacturer has established. So remaining active with Forsyth Tech, that is one of the things that has helped me to transition into the job that I have now. Networking with the North Carolina biotechnology groups, West Reed, of course. volunteering with the community, various functions, as well as some church functions. I have certainly done that. The whole thing that I would like to stress more than anything else is networking. As Micah said, it is important that you talk to people. You get involved in groups, various activities that you might be able to talk to a friend that maybe they have an opening that could use your skill set. Perhaps you can let people know about that particular skill set that you have. I did do a short stint with a forensics laboratory, and that gave me some experience and some additional networking. But ultimately, Patti reached out to me one time, at one opportunity, and mentioned, hey, we've got a particular job. Would you be interested? And I got to work with her for a little bit, got to talk to Phil for some time, and then that transitioned to an opportunity to work with him. So what I would like to talk about is networking and skill sets are important. You've got to have skill sets, and you certainly want to present yourself as being someone who can introduce value to the company. It's not about what you take away, it's what you can provide to that company. But always keep a positive attitude about yourself, always keep a positive attitude about what it is that you give to them, and care about what work you do. So that's what I have.
Good question. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Do you want us to just all? Yeah. Great. Good job, David and Micah. Oh, boy.
Good afternoon. Anybody have any questions for Patti, Micah, or David?
Oh, boy.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks again, folks, for coming to Forsyth Tech. We appreciate you coming. It's been a great talk. I don't know who's best to answer this question. Patti, perhaps you. I'm interested in how big the jump is from human medicine to veterinary medicine and what you're doing. Did you have to hire a veterinarian, or what's up with
Several
that?
consultants.
Okay.
Yeah, the jump, actually, it's an easier jump as far as regulation and all the, we still follow GMP, but it's not as complicated. You still need to register your products with the FDA, but they don't need clearance, and you still have to follow the GMP. It's interesting when it comes to normal ranges. Now you're dealing with normal, are you small animal, large animal? I mean, that gets pretty complicated. That's why you want to have on your staff veterinarians. So yeah, we've had to hire consultants to help us out there. I mean, we've got the products, they know what they're doing with them. So yeah, it's a very fun jump.
And one thing I will say, because I've gotten to work with some of the veterinarian labs in Washington State, one of the things I've discovered with that is when you're working with veterinarian samples, it's not like a human sample. It's a lot smaller of a sample. So it's not as though you could take a bird or you could take a rabbit or somebody else's pet and just give up a couple of pints of blood. That's about all they have. So you're actually working with a much smaller sample, so your parameters have to be a lot more robust. It actually is a testament of the quality of your reagents as well. And of course, it does lead to some extra development work.
Trying to get the questions through to the video.
Okay,
so
great.
that's why. My question is for you guys. What skill set did Forsyth Tech give you that actually really worked well going into Carolina? Does that make sense? What did you learn that, that immediately was applicable to your jobs at Carolina?
I think what helped me, and again, part of mine was the engineering background, part of it was the chemistry background. I think what helped me, and I worked with Deborah Pritchard, which really, she was an exceptional teacher. I enjoyed working with her. She actually taught, thank you. She actually taught me clinical chemistry. That was one of the degrees, or one of the particular courses that she had. And so it gave me a better understanding of what's going on in between a reaction, like the immunoassays. Some of the things that I took with Alan Beard, some of the courses that I had with him, I learned about assays and reactions how they take place and what happens with those particular assays. So it was able to give me sort of a connection between what it is that I was learning in courses and then what I did in the field.
I would say that because I'm working in regulatory, and it has a lot more to do with writing and creating documents on a computer and that sort of stuff, a lot of what I learned at Forsyth Tech was kind of ancillary to what you might think you were here to learn, because I had to learn how to do reports for an English class or whatnot. And I'm not applying a lot of those wet lab skills, but what I did get was the language. When somebody says an immunoassay, I know what that is. So in a lot of ways, that's what I got out of it. And I guess what I really stress to people is you don't have to be a scientist to work with biotechnology. They need writers. They need repair people, technicians. You know, we need accountants. And if you know the language, you're a lot more valuable because then you can read what it is that is written and placed in front of you and you have some clue what it talks about. Otherwise, you may not know if it even makes sense. So I guess my big thing was I learned the language and I learned the procedures, so when I hear about the tests, I have a clue what they're talking about.
Patti, I want to kind of turn the question on you a little bit. Is obviously you do a great job hiring, but when you're looking at it for employees, as an employer, what are some of the characteristics that you're looking for? Some of the sort of tangible, explicit skills that you're looking for, but also some of the intangibles that you look for and when you're hiring new employees.
So one thing that both David and Micah hit on was networking. I like to see them outside of the work environment and we like to get to know them and just see kind of how they live their life, you know, just how they present themselves. One of the things is organizational skills. Micah does a lot of writing. Micah's very organized, so is David. But just how they present themselves is really important because they're representing the company. So that's one thing to think about when you're out there networking, how you present yourselves. So that's a first and foremost. And then the other thing too, it's interesting, chemistry. Like when we can I sit and have lunch with these people? Do you gel with them? Is it a good team environment? And I think we have a really, really great environment in the office. I hate to even say we're like family, but oftentimes we are, you know. Exactly, we get to know each other because you're spending a lot of time, and you have to have a lot of that intellectual banter. Yes, no, why this? It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you can't have thin skin.
No.
Because if somebody comes back at you and says, this doesn't work, they may be panicking, and you need to be calm, and you need to understand what they're saying, and you need to fulfill the need that they have, not just take it personally and get offended because, well, I did it right the first time, what are you fussing at me for,
So that's why watching how they interact in networking and how they get along with others and how they lead their life, it's kind of interesting because that's how they're going to act in the workplace.
It does transition quite well. I've talked to a number of clientele being out in the field as well as in the workplace. And if you don't have the ability to adapt or work with them to where the clientele feels comfortable being around you, then that's going to end up hurting the relationship with the company because the company is ultimately, we do sell a product, we try to remain profitable. But if we're not keeping the clientele because they are not comfortable with the people they work with, then of course that is going to end up hurting in the long run, and everything is word of mouth. People get a word about you and then they may not want to work with you.
Yeah, they have to be good relationship builders. Relationships in the office, relationships with the customers, and great communicators.
Sure.
Good, and they have to be able to not communicate the good stuff, but oftentimes you got to tell them, it's not really a manufacturer's responsibility for something, and you have to just very gingerly walk them through what their responsibility is. We do that a lot.
My last question. Need this. So you've hired 2 people from Forsyth Tech. You've been very successful with them. You're kind of sharing one with me right now, right? Just want to make sure my boss is here, because when you said she works for you,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We want
yeah.
to clear the air on that one.
we share you. Yeah,
We share,
Yeah,
yeah.
Cheryl's. But I guess my question is, what can we do at the college? What is it that you think that we might be missing in terms of either a human relations aspect or a job preparation aspect, or even letting you know that, we have people for you? Is there anything more that we can do?
So, you guys are doing an excellent job. The one thing that Mike and I were just talking about driving over here is the bridge, like how the connection between we have positions open and you have graduating students or even current students that are looking, for apprenticeships. That connection, that's where if we can work together on that, because right now we have about 3 positions that we're looking for employees and or apprentice. Actually, out in California, I have an apprenticeship position, and we're struggling to find someone. So, well, see, and I shouldn't be struggling because I know that there are people there, So.
Well, that was my question. I was wondering what you guys offer interns ways for us students to see what your company does and see like if you have
Certainly, we would certainly do that.
to build like a career. I know me myself personally, I'm looking for like something I can do for 20 years as a teacher because you can still learn and not get lost in it. So I was wondering, did you guys offer internships?
Actually, Allison is filling the role. We had an intern for a while, and then she moved on and got married and everything. So Allison came in to help us part-time.
Cool.
Yeah, we definitely can use interns.
Okay, because I was wondering, because I had graduated with an accounting degree 5 years ago, but I still haven't been able to get those
And they're
skills.
paid internships
Yeah.
too, so we wouldn't expect people to work for free.
So how would a student here go about?
You just need, if you want to touch base with Russ, or you can just call in directly, and you can ask for me or our HR manager.
Okay, well,
And then
thank you.
she'll get that, send in your resume, and you don't have to be a graduate yet, that's okay.
She can't see, so she said no.
No.
Oh, Lord. Okay. I'm sorry. Are y'all connected with the work-based learning program
No,
we
we're
have here
not.
at SciTech? Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. We're doing that sort of intuitively or accidentally, but yeah, we would welcome, if you're in accounting, I know that they could use some help there, and then we get some experience there. It'd be great.
I graduated in accounting from a different school, but I'm actually here for nursing, so kind of ending my road, but I kind of want to consider it keep traveling.
But having both that medical knowledge and then seeing all the stuff that comes through, the products that we're selling, and that's all helpful. Like David said, he knows what he's seeing. Micah knows what an immunochemistry is. Yeah.
And I don't even have a med tech degree, so I'm not one of that med tech background, but I talk with a lot of med techs myself, and part of it's learning from them, and then part of it, of course, is just understanding what it is that from their perspective, what it is that they want, and then what it is, how I can make the connection between what it is that they're asking for and then what we can provide.
Other questions?
Got a question, yeah?
Judy.
I'm with the North Carolina Biotechnology Center, and our office is the Peabody Trade Regional Office. It's been around since 2003, of which Russ Reed and Dr. Green have been involved with our advisory committee. And Carolina Liquid Chemistries is a success story for the Peabody Triad region. It's a success story for Forsyth Tech's biotech program. And it's a success for the people here beneficial. So not only did it prepare them for working with you, but they learned so many other things that these students can learn from, because as you mentioned, we all bring something to the table, but it's up to you to let someone know what your abilities are. I've always liked the saying, if it is to be, it's up to me. And you really have to put yourself out there. And I'm very proud of these two graduates of this program, the success of it. And I appreciate what you're doing in this region, what you're doing for Winston-Salem, and that you were part of the wet lab launch.
That's right.
And that's
Yeah,
how I met
yeah.
you. And I
Our neighbors.
appreciate that Carolina Liquid changed its headquarters from California to
Mhm.
Winston-Salem. That was very big. And the fact that we have a president that not only visited Biotech Place, came to Forsyth Tech. I think you were a student there then. And then Phil got to introduce. So, you know, there's so many pluses. And I just want to tell you how happy we are to see the success continue with your company and with students who are graduates of this program. And people like Russ Reed, who give people a chance and believes in them, and he's such a good person to go to for advice. And I know both of you have worked with Russ, and he's given you great advice. And I just want to say how much I value the relationship we have with Forsyth.
And so do we. We really, really do. I mean, we're all in it together. You know, we all succeed with each other. And thank you so much for your comments. It kind of keeps us going every day to day. And you have the good ones and the bad ones, and keeps you going.
Any more questions?
Any questions, but anyone's afraid to ask?
I'm gonna turn it over to Alan Murdoch.
Okay, good. There's no more questions? So how many job openings do you have right now?
I have 3.
3? Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. Well, I just wanted to say on behalf of Forsyth Technical Community College and the National Center for the Bio Workforce and Bio Network, thank you.
Thank you.
Very much, and thank you for what you've done for these folks, but for our students and for supporting the college. And
Wow.
just stay put. We've got some wall art for you.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Thank you.
Give them a round of applause, please.
Wow. It's an honor. Woo. Is Allison going to take a picture? Be great. That's great.
I'll let Dr. Green stand here, and I'll take the other side.
Oh, wow. Judy.